Okay, so we have hobby progress first up, and we've been busy in the last 6 weeks or so. I think we've all been quite busy over the while. I'm going to start off by going through myself. So, I've been doing commissions. I finished a bunch of tiny little robots and some tiny little slugs and snails for Bad
Yes.
Squido.
We do like the bad Squido people.
Oh, yeah.
People.
I love these slugs and snails. They are so tiny. Some of the slugs are very small. But for like little basing details, you want to have some kind of like...
Familiars.
Yes, familiars. That's a good one. Yeah, I think they'd be great in some kind of diorama piece. They'd be just like lovely little backing details. Absolutely stunning. And the little robots are just adorable. And there's some legally distinct versions of shapes you might recognize a bit, but
Any of them voiced by J.J. Abrams?
You'll have to make that decision when it comes to painting them yourself.
So something I want to bring up because I felt very smug for noticing it previously was that these are all hand sculpted miniatures and then cast from the original hand sculpted ones, and that's not the done thing in the corporate environment. But at the same time, it really is something that she's distinctively that all of Bad Squido is doing, that any Bad Squido is doing distinctively, and is always when you see it, it's a bit like seeing a oil painting where you can still see bits of the chunks, like historically accurate.
And I love this. Like a lot of the companies I work for in the Lenten kind of community outside of Games Workshop, like your smaller ones. I'm going to discuss a bunch of them today, actually. A lot of them will still use like the traditional sculptors, and a lot of the people who were sculpting the models that we all loved back when we were kids are now doing the same traditional sculpting for smaller companies like Bad Squido. So great to see.
The lead belt has an entry on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But that idea that there's this area of Nottingham, of the UK, that's basically Nottingham, which is just because Games Workshop has become ridiculously successful for what it's doing. They churn through enough people that then there's leftover staff and talent to scale more appropriately sized enterprises in the area.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah, moving on. Next commissions I was doing was for Fenris Games.
Okay.
Always great. Check them out. We have Sir Gregor, the Chaos Knight. He is actually based on one of Annie from Bad Squido's Peegs. Unfortunately, one that's passed now, but yeah, it's a beautiful model. This absolutely lovely sculpt.
It's very different. I became aware that I think Fenris Games did the Cthulhu Wars Kickstarter game.
Fenris does all the Cthulhu stuff, and I've got some of that range, and I've been meaning to make a diorama out of it for ages. Big Shoggoth and some like cultists and stuff.
I guess I hadn't realized they were that big a deal. I thought they were just, another company.
Well, I mean, they're a company, but they are also a big deal. They do very cool stuff. So, yeah, there are a lot of games companies around. It can be quite easy for them to slip by unnoticed, but I definitely recommend checking out Fenris. I got these vampires as well. Those turned out to be very fun. Gave me a little bit of frustration at first. I did actually struggle with these ones, but I'm really happy with the result on them, and think they look really cool after all the work I put in.
So you got sort of three archetypes of vampires, and one's got a mask and a sword because someone's got to have a sword. Another one's looking very seductive with a wine goblet, and then the other one's like jumping around with a head,
Severed head, yeah.
but in the hand.
It's
Yeah,
like the bloody bride with a severed head.
is they seem to be on very well developed bases as well as Gregor. Are those? Did you do those? Are those?
Those bases are a set of resin ones that Fenris sells.
Ah,
Yeah,
oh.
they're really cool. He just gave me a big pack of them with the commissions. So
Well,
yeah.
that's lucky because I hadn't thought of what would happen if they came from somewhere else.
Anyway, yeah. Next one is the big mystery. I've been doing more work for Great Escape Games, and that's another company I'd love to highlight as well. Great Escape, the stuff that I've seen, they've got some absolutely beautiful historical stuff, and some of the stuff I've seen from them is very kind of Wild West or kind of like Prohibition era gangsters, and I've had to paint a bunch of models from them. I don't think any have been released as yet, so I can't share any details, but I am dying to show people some of these models because they're so amazing. So this is my big mystery one.
uh, I keep. I'm always surprised when like Prohibition or Wild West is interesting to people. But
It is. But also, no, I can't say any more. Actually, I can't say any more. I was going to add an extra point of why they interested me, but no, I'll leave that.
I'll just
Anyway,
assume it's something to do with the Westworld intersections of those two. The Westworld TV show has a in the one of the seasons there's a prohibition world or something.
right, okay. I still haven't seen
But
Westworld.
I'm not. But I know. We're not saying anything. We're not breaking. We're not going to break your NDA
Yes.
because you like
Right.
working for them because they're not. Well, that friend's boss who keeps yelling at them for getting sick after like a 60-hour work week.
Oh dear.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah. So next up, here's some of the other ones I've been doing. I did paint up another of these Accursed Cultists, which I really loved. I need to get a better photo of though, because I was missing my front light. So all the details on the bottom left-hand side are just completely obscured by shadow, but so much fun.
It's blooming lovely. And I think this one it's consistent with the last one, but it looks less like a craft world thing and something that has the same sort of energy
Yeah.
and confidence, but is just going a different direction.
Yeah, I do like to feel that this one definitely wasn't so much of like, oh, Craftworld did that awesome take on this. I'll see if I can do something similar to, yeah, let's just see what I can do with this mini because they're just cracking sculpts. They're so amazing, and just all the like gross little details are great.
Cries and self-imposed pile of shame rules.
So yeah, there's my every little golden demon entry, which I'm
Yeah.
not going to be entering this year, so I'm slowing
Okay.
down on. But I've started planning bits. There's a lot of sculpting to do, and I want to get it right, so I need to prepare quite a lot. And I'd like to start putting paint on it by the summer, maybe, but no rush, no rush. Next year's.
The amount of planning you end up doing for these is always maddening to me, considering the amount of the speed with which you churn them. Well, with which I try to churn them out, and you seem to churn out these little display box quality ones that everyone's very happy with. Clearly, they're happy because they keep hiring you.
Yeah, I like a lot of the time when I'm given a mini, I'll just have to paint it as quickly as possible, and that's one thing. But when I'm doing bigger pieces like this, it will often be like, oh, I have this idea, but it's way too complicated for me to sit down and just do now. So then I just kind of leave it on the back burner for a while and develop it and throw some ideas around. And, fingers crossed it all comes together, but we'll see.
Mm.
So last up on this is the Blood Knights. I got commissioned to paint 10 Blood Knights by my sister-in-law. And I had so much fun. I painted one and it took me a week. So I'm going to have to speed up slightly when it comes to painting any more. But I did get a lovely video on it about using the ball red contrast paint to get that bright red armor. So yeah, if you haven't seen that already, go check it out.
I think you really got something going here with sort of only doing 2 or 3 colors on this Blood Knight, but at the same time, it's like red, blue, and a lime green, but you've got them in such variation. It's not obvious at first that it's just 2 or 3 simple colors.
You know what? I'm so glad you picked that out, because that was the main thing I was thinking about when doing the model, and I wondered are people going to deconstruct how I've used these colors? But yes, that's exactly it.
I feel like nobody's aware there's a second Blanche guy who apparently also works for Games Workshop once in a while, called Pascal Blanche, who's got he's an artist. He's got a very distinctive style. Yeah, sorry, he wasn't sure for a moment. He's got a very distinctive style, and it is always that sort of 3 or 4 colors that are then just tinted and toned back and forth.
Yeah.
So that was sort of what I thought of when I looked at the Blood Knight.
If
I ever wanted somebody to replace... Sorry?
I think I've heard the name before. I was thinking very much of the covers of... I can't remember whether it was the current edition or the previous edition's Soulblight Gravelord's cover had very vivid red sticking out on the armor of the vampires. So
yeah, I think his use of color is too far from photorealistic for him to ever have the cover of a Codex book. But he did do a Cal Jericho cover. I mean, I'm sure he could do it. It's just he's not interested, I'm presuming.
Fair enough. I'll have to check him out, because I do think I've heard the name before. Anyway, moving on. So what have you been up to?
Oh, I'm still trapped on the goddamn Stormcast from Christmas. I'm mostly doing the bases. I mean, I'm now down to just doing the bases, and I've set myself with the horrible task of making all of the bases look like the sculpted bases. My mom was visiting a few days ago, or last week. Well, last week is a few days ago, and I was very smug that she couldn't tell which bases I had made and which ones were the Games Workshop factory sculpted.
Nice.
Now, admittedly, my mother keeps asking things like, are you ever going to do real painting? Or don't you think you'd be happier doing some sort of art? She's not super into the Warhammer thing. But if somebody with human eyes who's looking at these things can't tell, then I think I got if I didn't get the exact if my sculpting didn't exactly copy the Games Workshop sculpting style, then at least the way I painted them hides any remaining differences.
Yeah, you've done a really good job with those. It is,
I think I'll have to get another.
Undetectable.
So the other fun thing was when I finished painting these models. These 30 are the Christmas models, and when I finished painting them, and I was painting the last Stormcast, I took I did the abs thing. I don't know if I mentioned that in a babbling nonsense of how much do I talk about women's naked stomachs, but just the way that the armor looks, it wouldn't really make sense for the breastplate to have the abdominal muscles. And then I was thinking this would be so silly to paint this character as having exposed abdominal muscles because a risque miniature would have giant cleavage, and she's got like an iron collar on, but because she's wearing a breastplate. But then I just was like, heck, whatever. And I painted the female character as having exposed abdominals rather than a sculpted breastplate that's magically twisting and turning with her.
Looks pretty solid. It's interesting take on it.
And then I think I'm really looking forward to finishing these Stormcasts because then I think I've done 2/3 of the ones I own of the Mortal Realms magazines. I've already done all the Night Haunt, so they're done and they're crap because I painted them more than a month ago. So I've learned so many things since.
Your ability to work your way through a pile of shame never fails to amaze me.
Thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. I think I've probably got about twice as much or as much Space Marines that I'm not looking forward to, but I'm hoping to learn how to use an airbrush. So I've got the Jumpy Boys, the whatever you call the Stormcasts that have wings that are held up by the ribbons.
Oh yeah, the Wingy Hammer Boys.
Yeah, and I knew I didn't want to do so usually when I do these Stormcasts, or now most of anything, I'll drill a 3mm hole in the base and then attach the model with a not a polystyrene, sorry, an ABS peg. It's another type of styrene. But I'll make an ABS peg that precisely fits, and that'll hold it on snugly when I'm painting. Then I can yoink them off and do something elaborate like this, like what we see with the bases.
Woo!
However, I didn't want to deal with that with the Jumpy Boys, and all of their little ribbons connect with rocks. So I got some rocks that I had and glued them to the bases. And then, I'm going to paint them with the same turquoise thing on the rocks and then chunky terrain around it. Chunky dirt around it. But I realized the rocks are an excellent counterweight for the floppy birdmen.
They are. That's a good traditional use for them.
And much to my delight, the first round of these 7 were like the first mass-produced ones, so I started adding things like bits of string to be vines and skulls, along with all the sesame seeds I'm using for leaves. And I was very delighted in the morning when I realized one of the skulls was just sort of peeking out of the dirt like me looking over the bed sheets, and that's why I included that picture.
Cute. That's
all I think I have to say about that, unless there's something else that didn't come to mind. That's all my rant about it.
Well, yeah, basing's looking lovely. We'll just quickly skip through some of Autumn Witch's progress. She's been painting Space Marines. Lots and lots of Space Marines. She's certainly been cranking them out, and I'm hoping to do a couple soon because it's always fun to test out a Space Marine colour scheme. They've always traditionally been good models for just experimenting with different colours with those lovely flat surfaces. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a few.
Is painting a Space Marine to hobbyists and wargamers what doing an exercise video is to a British reality TV show contestant? If you're any good, eventually you're going to make one.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. So let's tick these off. We've got White Scars. We've got what is this? This Salamander's not finished. I couldn't tell.
I'm not sure. I want to say it's something else.
It's possibly something else.
I know. I think the models again from the magazine. I think that's from the. Which is weird. She's got it.
No, it's not because I gave it her.
Oh, okay. And I think the one on the left is the new Primaris character that has no rules because they're a old firstborn rank. But
yeah. I think I know the one you mean. But yeah, the classic Crimson Fist there. And let's move on the second page. A couple more of a Death Watch. I really love the Blood Angels Chaplain.
This guy.
Chaplain in particular, or just yeah. the guy on the left.
This guy's got some real emotion, and he's just coming up and lurching down and ready to smash stuff. And I think she's amped that up by giving him a slightly elevated base. And
yeah, and she's got some great like alien tufts on the bases lately. It looks very
oof, tufts.
sci-fi, like purples and pinks and like white pale fluffy dust. Yeah, and there's what looks like to be another salamander as well.
Is that
I'm not really sure what that is. Sorry, Tammy, you weren't here.
I think that's some of the recon, whatever the recon Primaris are. I think that's one of their backpacks, and then Horus Heresy legs.
Yeah, definitely heresy legs there. That's the like overlapping armor plates.
And I don't know what's behind him.
No.
Probably a Black Templar.
Anyway, so that's hobby progress. Hopefully we'll get a full update from Tammy next time.